Desperate to save his family from poverty, a young gardener accepts an unthinkable deal: marry the sick daughter of a millionaire. The proposal seemed simple, a sham marriage in exchange for financial stability. But as night falls, in the delicate silence of the mansion that was once his home, he discovers that nothing in that deal was exactly as he imagined. Among secrets buried in the garden of childhood and feelings that defy time, what began as a sacrifice may blossom into something that no amount of money could buy. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Philip Devereux's hands were always marked by the soil. At the age of 7, he was already helping his father tend to the extensive gardens of the Montclair mansion, learning the name of every flower, every shrub, every secret that nature held within its leaves. It was in this very garden that he met Stella Montclair, the little princess with golden curls who observed the world with eyes as curious and bright as sapphires. "Can you teach me to plant a flower?" she asked one day when she was just 6 years old, holding up a pristine white dress with her delicate little hands. "But your dress will get dirty," Philippe replied, concerned. Stella shrugged. "Mum has others for me, but this flower will be unique." That was the first of many afternoons they spent together, amidst laughter and soil, planting dreams in the vast garden of the mansion. While Philippe's father pruned the rose bushes, the two created their own secret world, where the social differences that would one day separate them did not yet exist. When Philippe turned 12, his parents divorced. His mother, tired of living in the shadow of someone else's wealth, took the son to a coastal town hundreds of kilometers away. The last look he exchanged with Stella was filled with unspoken promises and held-back tears. "I will come back one day," he promised, not knowing if he would be able to fulfill it. The years passed like pages of a book turned by the wind. Philippe grew up by the sea, learning to love the infinite horizon, but never forgetting the fragrance of the roses at Montclair Mansion. At 25, he received a call that would change his destiny. His father had suffered an accident and could no longer work, and Mr. Montclair was looking for a new gardener. With a small suitcase and many memories, Philippe returned to the mansion where he had grown up. The garden was different, more formal, less welcoming, as if it had lost part of its soul over the years. As he walked along the stone paths, a silhouette appeared on the main veranda. Stella Montclair had transformed into a woman of delicate and melancholic beauty. Her golden hair now framed a paler, more fragile face, but the eyes still held that sparkle Philippe had never forgotten. "Welcome back," she said, with a voice that seemed like a whisper from the past. In the days that followed, Philippe reimagined the garden, bringing back the magic they shared in childhood. He created secret corners, planted wildflowers among the sophisticated imported species, and brought life back to a place that seemed to have fallen asleep. From her window, Stella watched everything, rarely venturing outside into the sun, always shielded by shawls even on the hottest days. It was on a rainy afternoon that Mr. Montclair called Philippe to his office. Time had hardened his features, but his eyes revealed a deep sadness that no wealth could mask. "My daughter is ill, Philippe," he said bluntly, his fingers nervously drumming on the mahogany desk. "A rare autoimmune condition. The doctors have given her limited time." Philippe felt his heart tighten. Stella's absences from the garden, her pallor, everything made sense now. "I'm very sorry, sir," he replied, his voice choked. "I don't want your pity," Mr. Montclair cut in. "I want your help. Stella always dreamed of a perfect wedding. Since she was a girl, she's imagined herself as a princess on her special day." He paused, his eyes fixed on Philippe. "I've noticed how she looks at you, how she smiles when you're around. It's the same look she had when you were children." Philippe swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the unspoken words. "I'm proposing a deal," the millionaire continued. "Marry my daughter. Give her the dream she's always wanted to fulfill. In return, I'll pay all your debts, help your mother, and secure your financial future." The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. Philippe thought of his mother, working double shifts to pay the bills while he still had his father's treatment to consider. He thought of the small apartment where he lived, with bills piling up. And he thought of Stell, the girl who had planted daisies with him so many years ago. "I don't need to think about it, sir," he finally replied. "I will do as you ask." The wedding took place on an October evening when golden leaves danced through the garden meticulously prepared by Philippe. Stell wore an elegant white dress like a princess, highlighting her ethereal beauty. Despite her pallor, her eyes shone with an intensity that surprised everyone present. The ceremony was intimate, with few guests, mainly friends of Mr. Montclair and a few distant relatives. When Philippe saw Stell walking towards him, he felt something awaken in his chest. It was not just compassion or the echo of a childhood friendship. It was something deeper, more genuine. After the reception, when the guests had already left, Philippe took Stella to a special corner of the garden that he had secretly prepared, a small gazebo covered with flowering vines, illuminated by dozens of lanterns. "This is my wedding gift," he said, "a place just for us like the one we had when we were children." Stell gently touched the flowers, her eyes teary. "You remember?" "Everything," Philippe completed. "Every flower we planted together." They sat on the central bench of the gazebo, enveloped by the scent of wisterias. It was then that Stella took an old notebook with a worn cover from a small bag. "This is my diary," she explained, opening it carefully. "I started writing it on the day you left." The pages were full of drawings of flowers, poetry, and thoughts. Philippe leafed through the notebook carefully until his eyes stopped at a highlighted passage. "Today I told Mom that when I grow up I will marry Philippe. She laughed and said I'm too young to think about that, but I know what I feel. He understands flowers like no one else, and when I'm with him, I feel like I can blossom too." Philippe looked up, meeting Stell's gaze. "You... always..." "Always," she confirmed with a shy smile. "Since we were children. When you left, it felt like a part of me was ripped away. And when I knew you would return..." She hesitated. "Dad told me about the deal he made with you." Philippe felt his face flush. "Stell, I don't care about the reasons," she interrupted softly. "I'm just grateful you're here, for giving me this chance to live what I've always dreamed of, even if just for a short time." Under the starry sky and enveloped by the fragrance of flowers, Philippe kissed Stella for the first time that night. Not out of obligation or compassion, but because, in some way that he himself did not fully understand, his heart recognized hers. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. What began as an agreement gradually transformed into something genuine and profound. Together, they created a simple yet meaningful routine: breakfast on the porch, gazing at the garden, shared readings on rainy afternoons, conversations under the stars. There were difficult days when Stella's illness manifested more strongly. On those occasions, Philippe would carry her in his arms to the garden, settling her comfortably among cushions so that she could feel the sun and the fragrance of the flowers. He would tell her stories about each plant, each insect, each bird that visited that little paradise they had built together. "Do you know what I love most about you?" Stella once asked while watching a hummingbird. "When I'm with you, I can find beauty in the simplest things." On their first wedding anniversary, Philippe surprised Stella with a trip to the beach where he had grown up after moving there with his mother. They rented a small beachfront cabin, where they spent peaceful days collecting shells, watching the sunset, and sharing childhood memories. It was on this trip that Stella began to paint. Her paintings, though amateur, captured the essence of the seascape with a touching sensitivity. Philippe hung the first work in the living room of their mansion, proud of his wife's talent. In the second year of marriage, Stella's health temporarily improved. Taking advantage of this period, they took a trip to a country Stella had always dreamed of visiting, exploring historic gardens they had always dreamed of seeing. "It's as if every flower tells a story," she said, as Felipe held her close. In the 3rd year, when the symptoms returned with more intensity, they adjusted their dreams. Long trips were replaced by picnics in the garden, candlelit dinners in the greenhouse that Felipe had built especially for Stell, and impromptu movie sessions in the mansion's library. It was during this period that Stell began to write letters to Philippe, to her father, to friends she had made over the years. "These are pieces of me that I want to leave for you," she explained simply. In the 4th year, during a particularly difficult consultation, the doctor called Philippe aside. "It is a miracle that she has made it this far," he said candidly. "The love you share has been the best medicine." Philippe never mentioned that conversation to Stell. Instead, he dedicated himself to making every day special, as if it were the last they would have together. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Stell was too weak to get out of bed. Philippe transformed the bedroom into a garden, bringing in pots with her favourite flowers, hanging lights that mimicked stars on the ceiling. "You gave me so much more than I dreamed of," Stella whispered, holding her husband's hand. "Every moment was a gift." That night, while she slept in Philippe's arms, Stell departed quietly, like a flower closing its petals at nightfall. The funeral was simple, as Stell had requested. Her body was buried in the mansion's garden, under an almond tree that bloomed in the spring. Philippe planted white roses around it, creating a sanctuary of peace and beauty. After the ceremony, Mr. Montclair called Philippe to the office. His eyes, once hard, were now softened by shared grief. "You fulfilled your part of the agreement, and much beyond," he said, pushing an envelope towards Philippe. "Here is what I promised. Additionally, I have included you in my will. A portion of my fortune will be yours when I am gone." Philippe looked at the envelope for a long moment, then pushed it back. "I don't want your money, sir," he replied calmly. "What I experienced with Stell is priceless. It was real, it was true, and no amount could pay for the love we shared." Mr. Montclair seemed surprised, then nodded slowly. "You truly loved her." "More than I ever thought possible," Felipe confirmed. The next day, Philippe left the mansion, taking only a few clothes, the letters Stella had written to him, and a small photo album. He bought a simple house by the sea, in the same village where he had lived with his mother during his teenage years. He became a fisherman, finding in the vastness of the ocean the same comfort he once found in the garden. He created a small garden around the house, planting the same flowers Stella loved. Every spring, when the white roses bloomed, he would pick some and throw them into the sea, a private ritual of connection with the wife he had lost. 3 years after Stella's death, Philippe met Elise, a local teacher with kind eyes and a welcoming smile. She never tried to replace Stella in his heart. On the contrary, she listened with interest to the stories about the woman who had meant so much to him. "Love is not a limited resource," said Elise one day as they walked along the beach. "We can love again without diminishing what we felt before." When they married, in a simple ceremony by the sea, Felipe wore a brooch with a small white rose on his lapel, a discreet symbol of the woman who had taught him to love fully. Together, they built a peaceful and happy life. They had 2 children, a girl with curious eyes who loved flowers, whom they named Diane, and a boy with a free spirit who preferred the sea, christened Pierre. Sometimes, when the children slept and the house was quiet, Philippe would sit in the garden and look at the stars. In those moments he felt Stell's presence, like a gentle breeze touching his face. "You taught me that true love transforms," he would whisper to the sky, "and that each moment is too precious to be wasted." And on clear nights, when the moon illuminated the white roses, Felipe could swear that they glowed a little more, as if responding to an invisible touch. A gentle reminder that love, like well-tended flowers, never truly dies. It just transforms and continues to bloom in new ways. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.